Hello, everyone. Welcome to Innovator Insights from Idea to Impact, where we interview successful entrepreneurs about their journey and learn about the good stuff and the not so good stuff. We want to hear it all. Normally, we interview mostly product entrepreneurs, and today we made a little bit of an exception, but we're super excited to have Connor Tomkies today joining us. He's the founder of DelegateIt, Embark Vet, and Support Ninja that was number 86 on the Inc. 500. Among many other things that he does. So without further ado, welcome, Connor.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be on the podcast with you.
We're super excited to have you and learn more about your journey. So before we jump into business, tell us a little about yourself. Where do you live? Do you you're married? Pets? What do you do when you're not working?
Yeah, I grew up in Texas mostly. Met my wife in high school. She went to Rice and I went to the University of Texas here in Austin. And we have 2 pets, 2 dogs, and we live near Zilker, so not too far from you, probably.
That's awesome. And so you've been in Austin. You never left. You went to UT and stayed?
Yeah, I went to UT, stayed in state. My wife finished a residency in Dallas, so we went there for 5 years. It was during the pandemic, so I'm not sure if it counted. And then we came right back around. And the Austin startup scene is completely different from when I left it. It's actually really cool to see how it evolves.
Yeah, I was up in Dallas this last weekend. I met my wife in Dallas back in the 90s, and it's changed a lot. But a little bit off topic, but I shared anyway. We went on our first date at Papados on Oak Lawn.
Okay, yeah,
and just by happenstance, I walked by there and saw it, and that's our first date, and it was like 30 years ago, and I was like, wow. If that date had gone differently, our lives would have been completely different. So I was a little bit overcome by emotion, actually. That's a special moment.
There's nothing more drastic as far as the impact that your spouse will have on your life or your career as an entrepreneur. Like, it's huge. Whether that person supports you going through the highs and lows of your company, scaling and then selling and then going through the next company, it's a massive benefit to have a good partner by your side.
It's a lot. I mean, we all know, and we talk a lot about how much it takes to the entrepreneur to go through it. But, if you don't have a supportive spouse, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, we met. She went to Rice. I went to UT, started some companies here in town, and have been based out of Texas for most of my life.
So what came, did you start your first company straight out of UT then?
Yeah, I started my first company in college. I was not a good student. I was so focused on this company called DelegateIt, where we managed vacation rentals at the time. So these are Airbnb, HomeAway at the time. We made essentially a web app, a text app, and a mobile app to manage the vacation rental experience. And I was doing that through school.
Did that come pretty naturally to you? Did you grow up with entrepreneurial parents, or was it always in your blood?
No, it was more like I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I kept on bouncing around from idea to idea. Originally, I wanted to set up campsites before people got there because I enjoy camping. And then that idea didn't seem to have legs. And I was messing around with DelegateIt. We ended up scaling that to around 550 properties. And so that had a little bit more lift, but every time I did a different iteration, I kept on learning more. I think UT is also pretty entrepreneurial minded. Like, there's a lot of good programs there for students. It's also a pretty safe environment for you to start testing an idea. Not just UT, but college in general is a great place to start messing around with starting a company.
Yeah, that's awesome. So DelegateIt was your basically first job out of college, and what happened with that business? Sounds like it took off and was a success.
Well, no, actually. So we had a lot of properties, but we weren't making a lot of margin. So we were working off a lot of different APIs that were just emerging at the time. So like Instacart, Uber, stuff like that, to help fulfill the different orders, and the margin profile was relatively low. Airbnb was relatively new at the time. And so worked on that for 3 years. And at the same time, I was working at another company. So parallel entrepreneurialism, where you're working on 2 companies at the same time. And that company was called Embark. And that was a dog genetics company. I started with 2 brothers out of Cornell that moved to Austin. So I was doing developing the product. They were working on the science side. And I had one company that was struggling to make margin. And I had this other company where we started working on the product in November. And then by March, we had a fully blown product and we were on Good Morning America and we sold out of all of our kits and it really blew up. And I was looking at my these two companies and I was like, one is blowing up and this other one is really struggling to find product market fit and to scale. I should logically be allocating my time towards Embark. And that's what I did after college.
Yeah, that's, I don't know if they don't teach you that in business school or at least I had to experience it the way you did it. It's like working in one low margin business and then seeing how even if you have great revenues, doesn't really translate to the bottom line of the valuation of the company.
Yeah, you feel like you're swimming 2-3 times harder, but not going as far, right?
Yeah.
And it's similar. Like whenever you compare a restaurant business, it takes so much work and so much time, and in some cases, a SaaS business takes just as much work, but it's just more efficient and it has better margin. And you go farther and you sell for a higher EBITDA multiple. And so it's not all business models are created equal. Not all markets are created equal.
Sure. So Embark.net, can you repeat what was the product there?
Embark Vet. So Embark Vet is a dog genetics company.
Yeah.
Essentially made a chip that processes genetic information, different genetic markers on the DNA strand. I think at the time, the previous chip was testing like maybe in the thousands of different genetic markers. And this Embark chip tested over 160,000 different genetic markers at the time. So it was almost like a 10x improvement on the pre-existing chip. And we were able to draw more insights and tell you about breed and ancestry of your dog. And it went nationwide and it's still around now. I don't think any of the founding team is still involved in Embark, but it did pretty well.
It was acquired by somebody?
SoftBank invested, and I think right now they might be the biggest shareholder at the moment.
And how did you meet the Cornell guys?
We met at Capital Factory, like out of the blue. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So you're an early member with Capital Factory?
Yeah. So Capital Factory is a incubator here in town in Austin, and they're also involved in some programs at UT. And so Embark was doing a job fair and trying to figure out how to get into Austin. And I started working with the team on developing the product and going live. And we ended up moving to Owen's Garage, which is a literal old school garage here in Austin, Texas, that I think is ran by Dan Graham before the company moved to Boston.
So did you relocate there? You go to Boston for a while?
I didn't. So similarly, after that, started Support Ninja with two other guys, which is a international outsourcing company. So international hiring, training, managing. So did Embark, got to see it grow up. But whenever they moved to Boston, I stayed here and essentially started this international hiring company with Cody and Craig.
How did that come about?
It was a little bit on the fly. I mean, at the time, we were trying to figure out how to do support for Embark and how to scale like international teams. And there weren't a lot of players in the space at the moment that were focusing on the fast growing tech scene. There was TaskUs, and then eventually there was us. And now there's a bunch of other players that are focusing on like international outsourcing, like dealremote.com as far as EOR providers, Partner Hero, and some other people. But at the time, there was a pretty big gap in the market. And then when we were talking about whether the market's right and then whether the service or the offering is the right offering for that market, the margin profile was really good. And I was really passionate about hiring international teams. So it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's great. And was it focused on specific roles? Was it mostly support customer service type roles?
We started with support, and then we started doing work for all different types of companies. Some of the biggest companies that in Silicon Valley. So we were doing like the background checks for Uber and Lyft. We were working with Meta with some of their launches that they were doing for the new Oculus. Like it was working with a lot of these fast growing companies, launching sometimes specific teams for very niche and specific roles.
So you worked for a larger company like Uber and built the whole department, not just, one-offs, one resource here or there.
It depended on the role, right? And so we would work with some small companies like a Italian or Spanish shoe company, and then we would work with some of these bigger companies. The main thing that we were focusing on was having a really good employee experience, but also building a really good system for hiring, training, and managing these teams. Because at the root of it, that's the core process that's across all the different accounts. Is how well do you vet? How well do you put them into the account? What tools do you give to enable them? How do you make it easier for companies in one country to do business in another country? So if you're focusing more on like the trunk of the issue, it enables you to expand into different verticals faster.
Yeah, great. And what countries did you mostly find your candidates? Was it truly global?
Yeah, so we have agents in the United States working for other countries, right? We have Colombia, Ireland, Romania, Philippines. It's truly international work.
Busy. And it was you and two co-founders to start it?
Yeah, so Craig Chrysler, he's currently in Seattle, and Cody, who's currently here in Austin.
Yeah. And you were the original CEO for the first for the whole growth stage of the company, and now you moved on, or?
Yeah, so we grew the company for 7 years, I want to say, and then sold it to Boston Ventures, stayed on as CEO for 2 years, and then exited, I want to say, about a year and a half ago.
That's awesome. Congrats. So
Thanks.
During that journey, what was the hardest phase when you look back at those 7 years? Was it the early stage, the growth stage, as more heavy competitors started coming in? When you look back, what are some of the key points where make or break points?
I really enjoy the 0 to 1. So like starting the company, I don't like the awkward teenage years where you don't really have the resources or the time or the people for every area, right? So let's call that the 1 to 2. But then I really like it once you have like a robust leadership team, you have a good board. So like, let's say 2 to 3 is great too. So like 0 to 1, 1 to 2 is awkward, then 2 to 3 is great. But as far as like some hard points that really stood out, Support Ninja was really hard. I mean, we had thousands of employees that were direct employees that we were responsible for around the world. So we had to go through, we joke that we went through like typhoons, earthquakes, volcano eruption, the pandemic. Like it was like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and you're trying to figure out how to take care of your people and how to keep a business alive that's essentially bootstrapped. So it was pretty challenging.
You didn't raise any VC up front?
No, we did not. No, we wanted to be in a place where if we did go out to raise, that they would be interested in knocking on our doors instead of the other way around. And we found out that we never really needed it until we sold. So it worked out well for us.
Yeah. Raising VC is great in some ways, but then, it's easy to get hooked on that VC cocaine. And then it's just really hard if you have to lean off it, and you can't get it anymore. And just the outcomes too. Nathan Latka, right? He talks a lot about, how the SaaS is the new unicorn, because you don't need a $1 billion exit necessarily for it to be meaningful for you.
Yeah. I'm now kind of curious if SaaS is the biggest thing right now, with AI making it easier to build SaaS products and oversaturation of the market. Your moat's significantly less. So I don't even know if that's, we'll see what happens in the next 3 years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I my kids are college age now, and it's not trivial. You look out and say, what jobs are going to be around 3 years from now? To your point, right? I don't know. I think entrepreneurship is going to be around. So I'm starting a company with them and trying to teach them the principles of entrepreneurship. And
okay, that's cool. I love this. I wish I could do a series just on good businesses to start with your kids. I think that would be really cool. I look at Facebook Marketplace, and there's this guy doing, do you know Cowboy Pools here in town?
No.
They do these like stockyard kind of like ponds, like, like for your for your cow feeder and stuff like that, like the stock don't even know what to call them, a stock barrel or something like that, right? Like imagine like an 8x8 kind of circle, right? Where you can fill up with water. And this son and father combo, they're setting up these essentially these pools and then adding a filtration device to them. So that way you can add them to your yard. And I think that's a really cool project to do with your kid.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if you watched the show Landman.
No, I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
This oil guy, and this funny episode where one guy is on his deathbed, and then Jerry Jones comes in and does a cameo. But he talks to him about part of the reason he bought the Dallas Cowboys was that he wanted to work with his children. He realized that if I work with my kids, I'm not going to get to see them. So, if I buy a football team, I can work with them on that. So it's sort of cheesy, but it's a good message, I think. You have kids?
No, not yet.
Well, it's everything everybody says about it. Great. So transition there. So support name does now successful. You have a whole Madison team. You're still involved, but not run day to day, right? But it's you're involved with so many other things. You have your own podcast. Looks like you're part of several different entrepreneurial cooperatives, communities. Tell us a little bit about that. What you seem to have a real passion for helping entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So we ended up selling the company and it went well, right? But it was lucky. We were lucky that it went well. Like we found the right banker and broker. We were able to navigate terms. We were able to get all the main stakeholders aligned. And I felt like we were shooting the gap. Like it was like Star Wars and we're trying to shoot the Womp Rat, right? Like it's very hard to have a successful exit for a lot of people, even if you have a good company. So you do all the work, you have a successful company, and then you have to like do the final push. And so I think that kind of stuck with me a little bit, is that there should be more resources for founders to help them become post-exit founders. And then once you become a post-exit founder, help them with that transition. And what does that look like? So that was one thing that stuck with me. And I think that after selling and stepping down, I went from having like 25 meetings a day to having no meetings a day. I went from having thousands of people that I'm responsible for to having no one I'm responsible for.
Yeah.
And there is that almost like emptiness that you have after this. And for like people who are listening, who are starting a company, it's probably like a small violin moment, right? Where you think that your time will fill up naturally with your hobbies, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. And so I did two things. I joined Post-Exit Founders, which is a group. We have a pretty good group here in Austin. And then I started interviewing post-exit founders as part of my podcast, Made It, where we would talk about what their journey was like and what gets them excited and what the next steps are for them. And for the most part, I was asking the questions I was trying to find answers to. And that helped me kind of figure out how to spend my time. So that's how the Entrepreneur Cooperative got started. It's essentially a community for entrepreneurs. And then we help them go through the scaling and exit process and help them transition to PEF or post-exit founders.
Awesome. Would you mind sharing a couple of those questions? And what surprised you in the answers or obvious commonalities that you saw across the different founders?
Yeah. So normally there's three different camps of post-exit founders. There's the people that retire, they're post-economic and they're kind of set. And then there's another group that's focusing on investing. So starting their own VC firm, family office, angel investing. And then the third category of people that just want to go immediately into their next company. And I was trying to figure out, what category am I in? Am I interested in setting up a holding company? If so, what does that lifestyle look like? So I'm going to talk to someone that runs a holding company like Enduring Ventures or Tiny and try to learn from them. Is it just starting the podcast is a whole new skill? Like you have to learn about YouTube, you have to learn about mics and lighting and video production and editing and all that fun stuff, right? So it's essentially I needed to pivot my purpose and my drive from being one of ambition and generating as much wealth for me and my family and future generations to one of more curiosity. And that was my pivot essentially.
Also, that's great. Yeah. All right. So what's next for you? What are you focused on right now? It's a podcast and the cooperative. That's what takes up your time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it. The cooperative now has 300 members. We've done 80 events over the past year. We'll probably do a lot more this year. And we're focusing a lot more on like in-person stuff. So like people meeting up to play pickleball, go for a walk. We had a poker meetup a few days ago. So like getting people in real life, spending time together and making those connections. So I just want to do the stuff I would normally do and just invite more people to it, you know?
Yeah.
And I also have a holding company called Operator Equity. So we invest and buy companies. So between that, my cup is full. Like I'm happy. I got my meetings up. I'm running around and doing some stuff that I enjoy.
And the Entrepreneur Cooperative, I'm familiar with post-exit founders, which is, like the name says, for founders to have an exit before. The Entrepreneur Cooperative, is that open for any entrepreneur? Or what's the
So making north of $1 million in revenue, I would probably say the median's at 15 million right now. And yeah, it is open to entrepreneurs. There is an interview process, a vetting process that you go through, but after that, then you can get access to small group meetups around like starting and operating a holding company, or we were talking about podcasting meetups with other entrepreneurs that also run a podcast. So it's more like very focused, very niche topics that might be more relevant for a certain stage of entrepreneur.
Right. And it's a membership fee to be part of it.
Yeah. So it's almost like a gym membership. I think it's $100 a month for a monthly membership. And then it's $800 a month to meet and do like a mini mastermind every single month with a facilitator.
So if people want to learn more about the Entrepreneur Cooperative, where should they go?
Entrepreneurcooperative.com. Make it easy. You guys can also check out the Made It podcast. I think there might be a way to access it from there. But in general, we host events in multiple different cities every week. So some of them are open to the public. We also host some virtual conferences that are free. So we really just want to get more information about how to scale and how to exit your company out there for more people to see it.
And do you feel maybe success is not the right measure, but it sounds like you're fulfilled, like you've gone from a little bit of that emptiness, and now your cup is full with things that excite you and you're passionate about?
I think my cup is full. I think as far as fulfillment, that's a little bit harder. I think I struggle with being as ambitious as I was before, with having the same amount of drive as I had before. And so it's a little hard. Like your environment has so much to do with how much drive and what you want to accomplish. And right now I have a pretty comfortable environment, for better and for worse. So it's trying to like balance that while trying to capture some drive that I might be missing. So I think that's part of it. I think I'll have a better answer for you in a couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that. I mean, you're still pretty young based on everything you've accomplished just in a decade or so. I know him. I'm sure Brett Hurt, living in Austin. He's a good friend of mine, and he was he gets exited Bizarre Boys. Similarly, he was in the post-exit stage, and decided for a while he was going to start a venture fund, and then sort of halfway through the process realized that that's a 10-year commitment, right? If you raise a fund, and then you won't be able to do your own thing. So he switched course there after doing some soul searching, and then he went and started Data.world, and now he's a active entrepreneur again. I'm done. I haven't had a publicly traded company, but similarly, I sold Boundless, and then almost immediately I went back into running another business, Gemba. I don't know if it's a disease or an addiction, whatever it is. But, I enjoy that part.
It's a limitless game, right? Like there's so many different variables. There's so many different things to think about. It's really unique in that you can push yourself in a wide variety of different ways. So I think I get it when people want to start their next company.
And then after you do, you wonder what the heck, what did I do? What did I?
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit like, sometimes you have a child and then, it takes 2 years before you have another one, or 3 years, because you kind of forget how hard it was.
You forget. You 100% forget.
Yeah. And then you're like, we did it again.
Yeah.
Anyway, great. So 2025, we're at the beginning of recording this in early February. Any big goals, things that excite you this year?
Oh my gosh. I want to play pickleball with 100 founders this year. I want to help 20 people exit their companies, and I want to have a good time. I think those are my goals.
Great goals. Awesome. As before we hang up, if you were to give one piece of advice to our listeners, and I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, over the last decade plus of several successful businesses, what's one thing you would leave them with?
I think having a group of friends or peers that are also entrepreneurs around you is highly underrated. There's a reason why these peer groups last for such a long period of time, and you can build a lasting relationship with these people for decades. They can help fill the gaps and get you working on your business instead of inside your business. So there are also people willing to dedicate their time. You just need to find them. So if you're going through the exit process, if you're going through a hard time with your co-founder, there's people that are open to talking to you about it.
I think that's great advice. I've been part of a couple of different peer groups over the years, and it's invaluable because as the founder CEO, you face stuff that you can't really talk to anybody about.
Yeah.
You may not want to talk to your spouse about it. You certainly probably can't talk to your board members or your investors about it. And sometimes the very issue is your co-founders is sometimes you can't talk to them. So it can be a lonely place. And I totally agree. Having a peer group is fantastic. All righty. Connor, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And best of luck with what's ahead in 2025. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on.